Okay, hello and welcome to Mythophiles, where we cover all manner of stories. I am Duncan Gale, coming to
I
you
am,
live from the beautiful island of Dr. Moreau. And
and
here with me is,
I am Cody Decker in the beautiful lab of Dr. Moreau.
all right, so yes, if you couldn't guess already, that's what we're doing today. We are covering the island of Dr. Moreau, the book, and we might also talk a little bit about the movie from the '90s as well, if we have time. But
What was
mostly the book, I think.
what was the cover of that? Is it just
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's one interesting thing is because yeah, the cover of this fits more with probably the movie because yeah, there isn't really a prominent female animal person in the book, whereas there is in the movie. So
yeah, I just watched the movie also. I
yeah.
remember when I went to go watch it, I'm like, I know people reference this a lot, so it must be
Mhm.
good.
um, yeah, yeah. One half of that statement is correct. Yeah, but the reason why they reference it, yeah, is maybe not what you thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked it up online for like information and like like the summary of the movie is like very short, like a couple of
Right.
paragraphs, but the details about the background of it are like way longer. Like
Oh
no,
yeah. Yeah, yeah. There's actually a documentary about the making of the movie as well, which I haven't watched yet, but I would like to. Yeah, where yeah, apparently the guy who originally directed the movie was fired, and then he snuck back onto the set of the movie and actually appears as an extra as like one of the animal men, and like nobody knew it was him. So so yeah, so it's a pretty crazy story, but yeah.
yeah. And you know what else is a crazy story? Is this story.
Is this actual story we're going to talk about? Yeah, because we love stories being
Mythophiles.
mythophiles. Yes.
We're gonna
All
get that
right.
rolling soon enough.
So okay, yes. So yeah, we are going to be talking about the Island of Dr. Moreau, specifically the novel, which was published in 1896 by the author H.G. Wells. So, of course, here on Mythophiles, we mostly cover a lot of sci-fi fantasy type of stuff. So I imagine most of our subscribers or listeners already know who H.G. Wells is. He was an English writer writing in the late 19th, early 20th century. Really one of the sort of pioneers of modern science fiction and fantasy as we know it, along with Jules Verne. He's probably the other big guy of that period. But yeah, so H.G. Wells, yeah, he wrote a lot of famous stuff. The Time Machine was his first big book. Also wrote Invisible Man, War of the Worlds. Um, we know about all of those, but yeah, Island of Dr. Moreau was also a pretty early one. It was his second major novel he wrote after the Time Machine. So yeah, um, very influential book, very influential topic of science fiction that we're going to be looking at here.
Yeah, and he did the Invisible Man, which also
Mm-hmm.
has an interesting because it's sci-fi, but it's very interesting takes on science.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Invisible Man was a potion.
Right.
Did you watch the show, the Invisible Man show that they made?
No, no. Yeah. I wasn't aware they made a show. Yeah, I know they
Yeah,
made a recent movie,
it's
but
modern. I think it's like the grandson of the original Invisible
okay.
Man,
Uh-huh.
and he gets an organ implanted in him that releases invisibility chemicals,
Mm-hmm.
and he fights crime.
Okay, that's cool.
And he looks
That's
like
cool.
yeah, he go they call it Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like Capri Sun, if you remember those things. Those
Okay.
commercials where they turn into Capri Sun when they drink it. That's what they did for the Invisible Man.
That's funny. That's cool. Yeah, my only frame of reference with the Invisible Man is the Chevy Chase film Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which was kind of a comedy, kind of a modern retelling of it. And the most interesting thing about that is that they really got like realistic with like when he like ate food, like he could see the food like digesting within himself, and then
Yeah.
like yeah, and so that was pretty interesting. There was yeah, that was like an early '90s movie, and the special effects were actually pretty good for back in that period. But yeah.
I did read that book, I think in high
Mhm,
school, and
mhm.
like the whole book is basically deconstructing the idea of being invisible,
Right.
where even sleeping, because when he closes his eyes, he can still see through them.
Yeah,
So he has to
yeah,
like
that would be
find
a problem.
corners to like hide his eyes under so he can pretend that his eyes are closed. And if he
Oh
wants to
wow.
sneak around, yeah, he has to wait until his food is completely digested. And then
Okay, okay.
he
So
has
that
to walk, that's from the book. And he
okay,
has to
okay,
walk
okay.
around
So that is in
naked
the book.
and it's snowing. So one of the
Right.
issues is he's like freezing the whole time.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But
Okay,
that's not in the
that's interesting.
my background with this story though is the first Far Cry game was based off this,
Oh, really? Really?
where you go on an island and I think someone's doing experiments, which
Mm,
every
okay.
parody or retelling of the island of Dr. Moreau has decided that he did it through genetic modification.
Right.
And that's not what he does in the book. He does something much crazier.
Okay. Well, huh. I might have missed that part. But yeah, we'll
Or
talk
maybe I
about that.
misinterpreted it. Because what
Yeah. But well, yeah, yeah. I mean, my only frame of reference with Dr. Moreau uh is yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I was really into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and at one point I think I remember like my mom or something saying, oh yeah, well, there's actually this old story, the island of Dr. Moreau, that's like sort of like that, where it's like animals mutating into human beings. And so so that kind of
it
planted
is
the seed
sort of
se-
like
seed of
that,
like,
yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, so yeah, this is like the original version of like mutants and stuff. So yeah, so that was but yeah, only getting to it now, but yeah, so that was my frame of reference for it. Yeah.
I always forget you're a huge turtle head.
Oh yeah, yeah, huge.
Um,
um yeah, i'm I like to think that I'm Michelangelo, but I'm actually probably more Donatello. Yeah.
you Michelangelo's purple.
No, Donatello's purple, Michelangelo's orange. Michelangelo's the party dude, but Donatello's the nerdy tech guy.
No,
I'm
no,
I'm
you're
I'm not
fine.
I'm not really
You're
a
fine.
tech guy, but I am nerdy.
See that? Yeah, that's the benefit. People want to compare me to nerdy characters. Like, no, I don't know how any of that works.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
jokes on you. I literally just wear glasses.
yeah.
That's the entire basis of
As
it.
right, as Millhouse says, uh, I'm not a smart nerd. I'm a weak nerd.
Yeah, I'm not a nerd. Nerds are smart. Yeah.
Right, right.
Um. What? Because it was also. Well, I was trying to figure. Like, this is officially. This is like a free thing. Because if you missed it, this came out in the
Hmm.
1800s. Right at the
Right.
end. But still, that's a long time ago. So this is like
Hmm.
copyright free and stuff. The story, so you can find
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yes, yeah, but public domain work. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I was like, what kind of story is this? Is it a horror story? Is it uh
Mhm.
where do you fit this when you tell someone like, because it is sci-fi, I guess, but it's not about that. And this so like what is it like a
Mhm.
horror cautionary tale and that like Jurassic Park is?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I would put it in the broad category of like sci-fi horror. I mean, it has some connections to like Frankenstein in a way,
Mm,
because yeah, yeah, and again, what you're talking about, yeah, with the cautionary tale aspect of it, it's like, yeah, the limits of science, the dangers of just experimenting on stuff and doing stuff just because you want to, and not really with any uh sort of attention to whether or not it's something that actually should be done. Yeah. So Jurassic Park as well, would be a
What
more
happens when you
modern
let
version.
eccentric millionaires do their own thing on an island? I think,
Right.
the signs were all there way
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I guess should we just get into it?
Yeah, might as well.
All right. Well, yeah, so this the book, it is a first person narrative from the perspective of this guy named Prindick. And basically, yeah, he is touring the world because he is interested in like natural history and science. And basically, yeah, his ship gets shipwrecked, and he's on this raft with a bunch of guys, and they're like at death's door. And I think the other guys he's on the raft with die, and then but this he gets saved by this other ship that comes along. And it's interesting because the guy that saves him, um, initially the guy seems to be, relatively friendly and hospitable, but then shortly afterwards, the guy who saves Prindick basically says like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I just so happened to save you, but it could have been that, I maybe didn't like the way you looked or something, and I might I might not have saved you or something. So that sort of sets up that, yeah, this guy that saves Prindick, whose name is Montgomery, um, he's a somewhat ambiguous character. We're not quite sure what to make of him. But yeah, and so Prindick meets Montgomery, and Montgomery has this servant of his who is a very strange looking thing that Prindick can't quite figure out what's going on there.
It
Yep.
really towed the line in being like, when like some of the ways that he's like, oh, that's almost risky, but it's not. Like, I know what they mean, but some of the dialogue is like, ooh, that's right there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, yeah, this book was published in 1896. So, given that, some of the descriptions of the animal men make reference to certain other sort of, races I mean, it's not quite woke, as we would say, but
Yeah, it's
the
not bad.
guy,
I just thought it was funny because the whole time I'm listening to him like, oh,
yeah,
are you?
no,
Is it gonna? No, okay, just checking in. And it's
yeah,
also from
no,
that guy's perspective, and he doesn't know there's anything weird going on. So
right,
it is kind of funny that he's like, oh, that's probably one of those guys from, I don't know, one of those countries over there or something. I don't know.
right, yeah, no, it doesn't ever quite veer into like totally bad territory, but it sort of
It's right there.
walks that line. Yeah,
It's always right there. The whole time that was like part of the experience. Is you're like, are they gonna drop something? No, okay, well, I'll tell you,
right.
there is one story that dropped something hard that we're gonna cover soon. That like, it was like,
Mhm.
I was kind of like, oh man, I'm gonna read it. It's really, it feels really fulfilling, like going through classical literature and
Uh-huh.
then just hard slurs getting dropped. And I'm like, make sure the headphones are like soundproof.
Hmm.
Some books are risky to listen to in public.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't want to, be broadcasting,
Yeah,
certain classic audiobooks. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's
So,
true.
oh no, this
Yeah,
is just the dialogue scene where a character goes on a racist rant for like 5 minutes.
yeah. No, it's cool. Yeah, no, I was just listening to, Huckleberry Finn. No, it's totally it's totally just for my own betterment. No,
Yeah.
it's not.
No, the point is I disagree with it.
Yeah, I don't
That
mean any offense by
I'm
this. Yeah.
scowling. I'm scowling the whole time.
Right. Okay, yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah, this guy Prendick, yeah, he's on the ship with Montgomery, and Montgomery's manservant, who has a strange animalistic bearing about him. And yeah, and I mean, in terms of the sort of plot, the events of this, so some of the stuff gets needlessly complicated where like, yeah, the captain of the ship wants to like throw Prendick overboard, and he does so, but then he gets rescued again. So there's a lot of kind of rigmarole with that, but eventually, you know, Prendick gets onto this island, and Montgomery is there, and Montgomery is assisting this other guy, um, who we find out is named Moreau, and that reminds Prendick of this guy. Oh yeah, yeah, Moreau. I think I remember hearing about some guy named Moreau back in England who was doing all of these strange experiments, and then he got exiled. Yeah, and so that basically leads into the sort of main plot um, where Prendick is basically kind of welcomed reluctantly onto this island. They like I mean, it's the Moreau and Montgomery always kind of, they don't hesitate to, remind him like, you weren't actually invited here, but since you are here, yeah, make yourself at home. Yeah, here's a place you can stay. It's fine. Yeah, yeah.
which is really that dynamic, because they do still offer him places to stay, but they're like,
Right.
we don't want you here, but yeah,
Right.
I am like, we're not going to be rude.
Right. Yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, we're not completely horrible people. We'll be hospitable, but you know, we would prefer if you weren't here. But yeah.
And
Right.
especially in the movie with the actor,
Uh-huh.
like how like that character is like, look at these horribly disfigured people, and it's like, that's not how you talk to people that you just met.
Right.
So yeah, he is just like very, I definitely, the movie amps it up, but he isn't like he's rude, this guy. So
Mhm.
like I get it on their part, being like, maybe we didn't even find you, and maybe you're still lost at sea. You ever
Right.
think about that?
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I mean, yeah, in the movie and also in the book, yeah, I mean, this main character Prendick, yeah, who we're hearing the story through, is not an especially likable character. Yeah, I mean, I never found myself really sympathizing with him that much. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, Prendick starts to realize that like, uh, yeah, like where he is staying at this island, he keeps hearing like all of this horrible screaming and howling of like these animal sounds, and he eventually realizes that, yeah, like, these people are like doing these experiments. They're vivisecting these animals, they're like partially animal, partially human, and so Prendick basically starts to get really paranoid, and he's like, "Oh no, these guys are going to start doing experiments on me." And so basically, he runs away, and he runs into the forest, and that's when he encounters more of these animal people. He encounters the sayer of the law, and he realizes that these animals basically have this sort of law that they adhere to, where it's like, well, you are not allowed to walk on four legs. You are not allowed
Are
to
we not
drink.
men?
Right.
You're
Uh,
not allowed to drink like straight from water. They're not allowed to eat
that's right.
meat either.
Yeah, not allowed to eat meat. They're not allowed to like
Every time.
scrape bark from trees and stuff like that. Basically, yeah, all of the sort of things that you would associate a normal animal with doing, they are not allowed to do those things. And so that's so that's one thing that he encounters. And eventually, Montgomery and Dr. Moreau start going out to look for Prendick. And yeah, and this part was really interesting, I thought, because this was it was a very different sort of plot development than you would usually see in a story like this, where basically they start chasing Prendick, and they're like, no, you idiot, we're not actually going to hurt you at all. But Prendick's like, no, I
Yeah,
don't
they're
I
all,
don't
we
I
don't
don't
we didn't
deserve
even
to.
want you here. Like if we were
Right.
again, like you weren't part of the plan. We've made it clear that you can stay if you want. We don't even want you to. And then he's just like, they're gonna get me next, and it's like,
right. Yeah, so basically they like they're pursuing Prendick, and Prendick basically goes out to the ocean right behind me. Yeah,
famous.
and he's basically just like, yeah, I'm gonna just drown myself. I would rather die than, be subjected to these horrible experiments that these guys are probably gonna do on me.
No, we're not
And so,
gonna do that to you.
right. Exactly. So yeah. He basically goes out to the ocean to like drown himself, and they're like, no, Prendick, come back. We're going to look. We have 2 loaded pistols. Okay, we're gonna put them down on the beach here. Okay, and we're gonna walk away. Okay, come back, and you can have these loaded pistols in your hand while you talk to us if you want. Yeah, I mean, this was really pretty sort of amazing. Where it's like, no,
Stop.
yeah, just hey, you can point loaded weapons at us. All right. Will
Like
that make you trust us? Yeah.
they're the ones treating him like the dangerous monster. And
Right.
they're like, they're
Exactly.
trying to calm him down and be like, wait,
Yeah.
everything's
Yeah.
fine. They're talking him out of committing suicide. Like they're
Right.
what I also love, because he brings up drowning himself as an option like throughout the rest of the book. And he'll just
Yeah.
like, he's like, at one point he says like, it all right, like I'll go with him, but it's good to know that that's a backup plan, that I can just and then every now and then he'll just be like, maybe I should just drown myself in the ocean.
Right. Yeah. No, Prendick, yeah, his kind of psychological state throughout this is very sort of odd. And yeah, he's very sort of on the edge. Yeah. But yeah, so basically, yeah, after that happens, yeah, Prendick comes back, and he comes back to where he was staying, and that's basically when Dr. Moreau sits him down and sort of explains what is actually going on here, which is basically Dr. Moreau is not experimenting on humans at all. He is only experimenting on animals and trying to make the animals more human-like, but he is not going the other way. And what he talks about is not just making the animals human-like, but also how it's a constant sort of uphill struggle that he's doing, where every time he tries to make the animals human, they will eventually revert back to their sort of animal ways, and so he has to start doing things like creating those laws and so forth. And yeah, so this is just basically what Dr. Moreau is doing. He wants to make animals into humans, and he makes it clear that there's no real sort of ultimate use or purpose he has for doing this. This is just something that I got curious about, and I thought, well, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if I tried to do this? Yeah, so
and he's like, and well, isn't it? It's pretty, and that's why he like in the beginning, like he got kicked out, and like they say, like if he just like, like denounced his experiments, they would have taken him back in. But he's like, no, I'm not denouncing it. I'm gonna go do my own thing. And just to clarify, what he gets like a dog, and he does surgery to construct them into the shape of a person, and then like he like just trains, and like he like gives them surgery and stuff. They can talk now, and he just trains them to act like people for the sake of proving that he could.
Right.
There's no higher goal here.
Yeah. No, this is pure science. This is just, what can we do with science? No sort of immediate use or application for this. Just yeah. How far can we go?
Yeah. That there is a level of horror in that, where you are just like, you are just stuck with this guy who's just like, no, I feel like literally, I don't, there's not even a like moral justification he has for it. He's just like,
Right.
They told me I couldn't.
Right. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so it is, yeah, kind of partially that sort of standard, yeah, mad scientist sort of narrative, yeah, that we have here. So, so yeah, basically, after all this is established, I mean, the remaining part of the story is just sort of about how um, eventually um, certain animals, well, yeah, really, I guess one animal kills kills some rabbits and basically gets a taste for blood with that, and then they go and they try to hunt down that animal. And really, Moreau and Montgomery just want to sort of capture the animal and bring it back and sort of correct its tendencies. But Prendick ends up actually shooting the yeah, I think it's a uh, leopard man, and he sort of does it partially out of kind of pity, maybe. It's sort of like it would be better for this thing to be dead than for it to be experimented on anymore. And yeah, Moreau is very upset with Prendick for having done that. Um, but then shortly after that, yeah, there's another animal man that that escapes from the laboratory, and Moreau ends up dying after trying to pursue that animal person, and Montgomery dies shortly after that, and so it's just the narrator Prendick left alone on the island for a while, trying to live among the animal people. And there was there was one funny part towards the end where, like, yeah, one of the especially sort of compliant animal people, I guess one of the like dog people, like actually comes up to Prendick and is like, can I serve you, sir? You know, would I be able to do anything for you? And Prendick is like, no, I want to be left alone. And he's like, no, oh, you want me to leave you alone, sir? And it's like, you know, it's Prendick being just a complete jerk, and just like not wanting to have anything to do with these with even like the nicest animal person that is trying to like help him and stuff. So
No, I gotta go. Yeah,
it's like,
in the
you guys
movie,
disgust me, you know.
I think Dr. Moreau died or he was like shapeshifted. I wasn't really clear on that.
Um,
Because there's just I don't know if I like looked away because the movie didn't keep my entire interest, if I'm being honest. And there is just like another guy that's clearly not Marlon Brando. And he's
yeah,
like in the you know the level of sunscreen that you need to apply every day is
right.
so he has that,
Yeah,
and then he just has like he like put like pillows in his stuff in his shirt.
right.
And I'm like, is I missed it. Did he like be like, oh, by the way, I figured it out, the secrets to youth or something? Because in the movie, he actually has some vague goal he wants to do.
Hmm.
But then
Right.
there's just another guy who's like either I don't know what happened. Then he gets like killed. Um, but I missed the part where it shows what happened to Marlon Brando.
Yeah, no, as far as I remember from the movie, yeah, I think he just gets overwhelmed by like, yeah, a big group of animal people. Yeah, they like coming to his study. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, while and they like start sort of playing on his piano and stuff, and he's like, oh, that's very good. That reminds me of Schoenberg. Uh, yeah, so he like tries to like say, oh yeah, you animals are creating like a great atonal musical piece or something. He like he tries to be like friendly to them, you know, even though he's also really sort of, you know, nervous about it. Uh, but yeah, and then I think um, yeah, they eventually confront him over the fact that he uses this like electroshock thing. Yeah, this is something. Yeah, I don't think this is in the book at all. But yeah,
No.
in the movie, yeah, all of the animals have like these chips implanted in them, and Moreau can like press this button, and like they all get an electric shock to make them compliant and stuff. And it turns out that yeah, that some of these guys have been able to like claw the chip out of them, and so yeah, so and
Is
so they're
is
able to.
is that what the newest Jurassic Park was referencing? You know, when the dinosaur figures out that it has a tracker in it, so it like rips it out.
Yeah, I
It was in
didn't
Jurassic
see.
World.
Yeah, I didn't see the most recent one that came out last summer,
Dominion.
but yeah, uh,
Yeah, you don't need to watch them, but it's
yeah. I didn't think so. Yeah,
yeah. In the reboot series, yeah, they're like
uh-huh,
the thing figured out that it was being tracked. It figured out that they were
uh-huh.
following it. So it was
Right,
like,
right.
oh, it figured out there was a tracker in it and it pulled it out like surgically and left it
Hmm.
as a trap. And they're just like, yeah, it's smart.
Right. Hmm.
It's like that it doesn't know it doesn't know what electricity is. It wouldn't know what a tracker. So maybe it was a
Right, right.
reference to because in this one they're they do have intelligence.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. Well, yeah, and that's a yeah. I mean, that's a common trope in these sorts of stories is that it's like we're able to keep control over these things as long as this is the case, and the animals always figure out a way to subvert that. Like in the first Jurassic Park, yeah, they were able to sort of keep control over the population because oh yeah, they're all female, yeah, so they can't actually reproduce. But
It's completely controlled.
yeah, but it turns out they actually figured out a way to reproduce anyway. So yeah,
Yeah, the scientist is like, did you use this species of frog as a base? He's like, yeah, really figured.
right,
Oh, that one
right,
can change its gender based on the situation.
right, exactly.
That's an
Yeah,
option. I didn't use that frog. That was no,
right,
I
right,
used a different frog.
right.
I
Yeah,
love the
yeah,
premise of Jurassic Park, where it was just a guy who's like, I want to show you guys the theme park I'm making, and the whole time they're just like, why'd you make this?
yeah.
He's like,
Hmm.
we can sell tickets, and they're like, tickets, you created dinosaurs. He's like, yeah,
Right,
I figure people will pay to see them.
right.
People will pay to the toys we can sell off these things. It's going to be insane.
Hmm.
The
Yeah,
profits, this will pay for itself within a year.
right, right. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a slightly different thing, yeah, from the book to the movie. Yeah, I mean, so in the movie they have the electroshock, but in the book it's just, oh, make sure that they never taste blood. Okay, yeah, no problem. So
Yes. Not yeah, just on an island. Just don't let it happen. I told them
right,
not
right,
to. So if you see them, just kind of remind them that they're not supposed to do that. Otherwise, this whole thing falls apart.
right. By the way, we have all these rabbits on the island. Yeah, I'm sure that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might be forgetting something from the book, but yeah, I mean, otherwise that's pretty flimsy. Where it's just yeah, make sure they don't have blood, but yeah, we do have all these rabbits out there that nothing can go wrong. Yeah,
Sometimes when I watch movies like this, by the way, I really watch it and I'm like, there has to be some message here that I'm not getting. Like
right.
there has to be a reason someone made this. So I'll
Hmm.
start like if something is bad enough, I'll start like going into be like, no, it must be brilliant because
Right.
why else would they do this? And so
Hmm.
when they're like they ate meat and they're like going crazy, and I'm like, is this about like us? But I don't know if soy was a thing back then. I'm sure if
Oh
you
yeah.
rebooted Dr. Moreau, there would be a big metaphor for people being told not to eat meat.
Right.
And like they'd be given soy turkey or whatever, and then
Hmm.
they'd eat real meat, and they go like, ah, I'm so mad all the time, and
Yeah. Well, yeah. Look forward to Peter's um, new reboot of Island of Dr. Moreau. Yeah,
well,
should
yeah,
be
and
good.
in the movie, he's like, I want to breed. I can't do an accent. I want to breed out the evil, which is the human part. So I'm going to get rid of the
Right.
human part and instill the good parts in life, like lions
Hmm.
and peaceful creatures that are just.
Right.
It's
Right.
also like you could have picked vegetarian animals. This would have been avoided.
Could have been. Yeah. Hmm.
Which
Hmm.
isn't a plot hole because again the reason this guy is doing this is he felt like it. So his legitimate answer to why didn't you just use a vegetarian animal
Right.
could be I don't that wouldn't be cool.
Right. Or maybe just yeah. Well, I'm on this secluded island, and I just had to work with whatever creatures were here, and they were all terrifying carnivores. So hey, What are you gonna do?
You work with what you. It's like, did you see that panel when Spider-Man's fighting some dinosaur villain? Like
No.
it's like this mad scientist who figures out how to
Uh-huh.
turn people and himself into dinosaurs, kind of like the lizard, but dinosaurs.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and Spider-Man's like, you can genetically program like entire body, like using this you could cure cancer. And the
Right.
scientist goes, but I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
Right.
And it's like, all right, well, I guess we'll have to fight then, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like fair. You didn't, if you wanted to, you would have done that. It's right. I don't know why I didn't bring that up.
Right. Right.
Maybe that was a reference to this as well. Maybe the lizard is a reference to Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably some inspiration there. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess before we go into any more detail, you wanna read some comments?
I'm glad you meant, again, I am always nervous about reading comments. I don't know why, but here's one in a book, in an episode of Your Picking,
Mm-hmm.
by Scholarbot Tarot. Discussions on any Vonnegut's works are tough on me. I love his work in theory, and talks like this make me want to take another shot at it. But anytime I've read his books on my own, I get so lost. Like, I fear I may be too dumb to read Vonnegut.
Well, no, I'm sure that's not the case. I think some of some of Vonnegut's books are definitely more difficult, just in terms of how weird they get. Um, yeah, but yeah, I mean, keep at it. Uh, yeah, I think, and also, yeah, I mean, some of them have good movie adaptations as well. So yeah, I mean, maybe read Slaughterhouse-Five and then watch the movie. Yeah.
And I got one. I felt like Cat's Cradle was a very easy, simple read. Like,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
also I feel like getting into any classical literature, there is always this like feeling of like this is going
Right.
to be too complex for me. And
Sure.
then what I have found is people are usually the same throughout all of history. So like
Hmm.
people wrote comedies and people wrote all those even in the 1800s. So you
Right.
can kind of, if like you can approach an older story the same way you approach a new one that just came out. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
someone wrote this.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and that goes for what we're covering right now. Yeah, I mean, the Island of Dr. Moreau. I mean, it reads like a, you know, modern, paperback, thing that you would buy at like a grocery store or something. I
Yeah,
mean,
you'd be
it's, I
like,
mean,
oh, that was
it's
freaky.
not that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, we're gonna pick another one. Dang it. I didn't want to reread the same one. I almost did. Teknu Tengu in
Hmm.
Black Panther 2 Movie Talk 2. I agree with Ironheart feeling like she was involved a little too much, like the scenes where Shuri has taken the herb of all people. Riri was there during this very Wakandan thing that had nothing to do with her.
Hmm.
Which is a thing that comes up in the comic books, by the way,
Yep.
where Riri does go to Wakanda and they're just like, "What are you
Hmm.
doing here?" And they
Right.
fight. She's like, "I want to help." Like, you're not. No, we're an isolationist country. Remember?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I felt like, yeah, that was just a way to get one more new character into the story, and I know that that's just sort of the way that Marvel likes to do it. I mean, Ironheart's going to have her own series later on, but they need to introduce her in a movie first. But yeah, no, it was there were a lot of moving pieces in
yeah,
that movie. Yeah.
I got one more from Monkey D. Luffy. All right. And this is because I like hearing about the comic backgrounds of some of these deeper characters like Moon Knight and Namor from you guys. I
Hmm.
didn't know anything about them. And that because every time we talk about comics, I'm really worried that we're just going to talk about the background of them way too
Oh
much.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And every time did we talk too much about it again? But so that's
Yeah. Well,
it's
good. Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely guilty of that. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely do an entire episode where I just talk about the background and stuff.
yeah, it's
Good. Good.
So now we're gonna do, because if you didn't know, we've both been kind of holding back on that. So
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
beast from now my tiger genes. Oh, we should talk about our fursonas also. Mine, and it has to be fur, right? Because I identify more with birds. But
Uh-huh.
I don't know if your fursona can be a bird. Uh,
Mm.
but if I was on the island of Dr. Moreau,
Mhm.
I would at least be some sort of cat species.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe maybe the panther.
Mm. Cool. Cool.
What's your fursona on the island of Dr. Moreau?
Yeah, fursona. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think mine would probably be a dog, um, or maybe a monkey. Um, yeah, but yeah, I think those were the two animal characters that I sympathize with the most. Yeah, the dog guy that just kind of wanted to help Prendick, and then yeah, the monkey character that was like, oh, five. Yeah. So I saw that he had five fingers, just like Prendick. Yeah. So
I can see you as an orangutan.
yeah, yeah, it'd be cool. Be cool.
All right, let's finish up the rest of the story. Oh yeah, don't forget, if you read comments, we read all of them. You can also join the Discord
Yeah.
that I'm on there pretty much
Mhm,
every day, unless I fall asleep or something, which I go to bed
mhm,
pretty early. So
mhm.
because
Yeah.
because sometimes people will be like, we do voice chats on there, and sometimes people will be like, you should join, and I'm like, I was in bed by 8 p.m. So you got to be quicker than that. I am a sleepy head. I love me bedtime and chamomile tea.
Mm, delicious, delicious. Yeah.
All right.
Um, yeah. And if you comment on the YouTube videos, yeah, I see all of those as well. So yeah, please do.
Yeah. And just see, the system used to be just hearting comments like when we read them, but it occurred to me it's much harder to keep track of them that way. So now I heart them after we read them. That way I can,
Mhm.
because otherwise it is very easy for me to just say the same thing over and over again.
Right.
All right, yeah, we're also on Instagram. I don't post
Mhm.
anything. I think I just got untagged in every post I've ever been on. Uh, I don't know what happened. I'm not. I'm. I don't ever. Well, most of my posts have been deleted. I don't know what happened, but I'm on there, and
Yeah,
you can
I'm
message
on
me.
there as well. Yeah, and you can find me there. I mean, if you find me there, tell me that you're a fan of this specifically, because otherwise, yeah, if there's just random people saying hi, I might not respond to that, but just
It's very easy to mistake it
yep,
for spam.
right, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's what a lot of them. It'll be in hidden comments because even Instagram was like, they don't know you. They're
right,
not.
right.
They don't actually. This is probably spam. All
Yeah,
right, let's finish up the rest of this story.
sure, sure. Well, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the story basically ends with Prendick being on the island for a while, for a couple of months, with these animal creatures, and they kind of slowly revert back to their animal natures, and Prendick eventually is able to get off of the island because a ship comes by, and he goes back to England, and he finds that he hates humans now. He prefers animal people, even though he didn't seem to particularly like the animal people when he was on the island. It's I mean it's almost like the grass is always greener on the other side with them, kind of, but so
Yeah,
yeah.
because
I mean it's
maybe he bonded with them in the time skip,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
because
I
the
mean
last interaction is like, no, I don't even want your help. Don't talk to me.
well, yeah. I mean I guess he did eventually kind of bond with the dog man to a certain extent, and then when the dog man was killed by another animal man, he was sad about that. So yeah, again, it's like uh, yeah, you don't know what you have until it's gone, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, he goes back into regular society, and he's haunted by this experience. Yeah, he's changed by it. He doesn't like humans as much anymore. He just likes to stay in his study and and be solitary now. So
And that's the island of Dr. It's a very simple story, which is
yeah, yeah. The story itself is very straightforward. Yeah, and again, the movie changes a lot of things pretty significantly. But I think it's free to do so. I mean, among the many problems with the movie, I mean, I don't think the problem with the movie is that it changes the story from the book. I think there's a lot of other stuff going on with the movie. Um, but uh, but yeah, I mean, it's your basic story of, yeah, a weird scientist on an island. Guy goes and yeah, encounters this and then escapes from it. Yeah, so
yeah. It's because I don't I like kind of like how like Frankenstein, like that book wasn't like it's morally wrong to bring people back to life, because the issue
right.
wasn't, the movies and pop culture are like, oh, he brought back a zombie. And that's not what happened in the book, where he's like a thinking person who's like trying to figure his way through life. And the person that brought him to life wants nothing to do with him now. So it's
Right.
more of like I would argue it's more of like a thing about parenting. Uh
Hmm.
because again, the guy, he's just like, life. I wonder, is that not a butterfly in the wind? He's very philosophical and like
Right.
talkative.
Hmm.
So it's not that like, like what the moral of this isn't don't vivisect animals to turn them into humans.
Right. Yeah, that's not exactly the moral. Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So what would you, is this like a Twilight Zone type story where it's just like, that would be like, here's like, what if a guy went on an island and here's like an interesting story that could happen from there? Or like,
Right.
did you get like a more meaning
Well,
from it?
yeah, I think the main kind of meaning that I got from the story was just a lot of contemplation on the fact that, yeah, I mean, between animals and humans, I mean, it's more of a sort of continuum, than a hard and fast line between one and the other. And yeah, there's more sort of commonality between the two than we might think about. And yeah, there's actually one particular passage that I thought was really interesting, and this is when they're hunting down that leopard man that kills the rabbit, and this is something that Prindick says as they finally encounter the leopard man. He says, "It may seem a strange contradiction in me. I cannot explain the fact. But now, seeing the creature there in a perfectly animal attitude, with the light gleaming in its eyes and its imperfectly human face distorted with terror, I realized again the fact of its humanity. In another moment, other of its pursuers would see it, and it would be overpowered and captured to experience once more the horrible tortures of the enclosure." And yeah, and then he ends up shooting it. So he's basically saying, like, when he sees it as an animal, he also sees it most as a human at the same point. And I thought
Mm.
that was a really kind of interesting um, observation there. And yeah, so I think just, yeah, um, the sort of way that Dr. Moreau tries to blend the lines between animal and human is maybe you know not the right way to do things, but he's maybe he's maybe onto something a little bit there with it. So yeah, that's the sort of meaning that I got out of the story, I think.
Because I have to assume there's something in it. Reminded me a little bit of did you read Brave New World?
Yeah.
Um they're like how they have like this a very like cold society that's also like very like liberated,
Right.
like at the same time socially. And then but you have like all these rules you have to abide by, and then there's also like this like colony of people that live outside this like system, that
Hmm.
they have that they're like, we're free, but then they also have their own rules. And then it's um
Right.
So
mhm,
when he goes to live among the animals for a bit, it kind of reminded me of that, where he's just seeing
mhm.
basically just how humans lived in the wild, which is like they,
Right.
you get a fire pit and you hang out and then you go to
Mhm.
sleep. Um,
Right, right,
and now he has to go home to first of all, he has to go back to England. He was on an island, and
right.
then yeah, now he's just like, now they're just like, hey, how was work?
How was your trip? Yeah, good. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a dog man thing. Remember that scientist that got banned? Yeah, he was there.
yeah,
He was turning dogs into people.
right. Well, yeah, and it's interesting because yeah, the only way that yeah they're sort of able to keep the animals in check is that yeah, I mean Moreau and Montgomery basically just have to like make themselves like gods to these animals and yeah, and sort of instill this sort of like godlike terror in them. Um, but yeah, maybe there's a message there in terms of like, well, yeah, maybe if you had a little more faith in these animals and were able to, you know, look at them as equals, you might have been able to have more progress there. So yeah,
Well, yeah, because he also just leaves the animals don't all end up like killing each other at the end. I don't think so.
no, no, definitely not.
He just leaves. So
Hmm. Right,
so it is like, one of them did kill someone, but that was one of them. We had someone that committed the first murder too. His name was
right.
Cain. So,
Game.
it's not all humans are killers, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's also like he was, I don't think he was the scientist trying to prove anything, but he does like they made a system that has a religion they follow, and that also is like that's where systems for civilization come from, is like fear of like a higher power,
Right, right.
maybe.
Hmm.
Uh
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean the animals are not really any better or worse than human beings. Yeah, even when they're made into a more human form. But
yeah, they're given rules for how to act like men, and
right,
we're given that too. And it's called the 10 Commandments.
it
So
is. And those Ten Commandments, yeah, I mean they should be up on every courthouse in America, as far as I'm concerned.
yep,
Yeah,
the judge just taps the sign.
yeah.
It's the
I mean, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. I mean that's basically in our Constitution, right? So you know,
Yeah,
anyway,
so we should. I think the moral of this is we should reincorporate
right.
the Bible into the system. If we can get the
Uh,
state and the church to work together,
mhm.
that's our only answer to peace.
Okay. All right. So yeah, turns out Island of Dr. Moreau, a fundamentalist screed. Uh, but no, no, no. Overall,
Oh,
I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as a story. I thought there were a lot of interesting things in it, and it reads very quickly, very fast. So yeah. I mean, if you want to, you know, semi-classic sci-fi story that you can read in just 2 or 3 days, I think this is a good one to go to. And yeah, and definitely read the book. You can skip the movie unless you're a Marlon Brando completist or something like that. Unless you want to watch another movie where Marlon Brando is first billed, but he's in it for like 10 to 15 minutes. It's this example is not quite as egregious as the example of the original Superman movie, uh, but it's uh, it's pretty close. Yeah.
that's also the because I saw that like all these actors they got on board for this because
Right.
they're like we want to work with Marlon Brando. Like
Hmm.
I don't I like I, all I know from him is the jokes about people saying Marlon Brando. So like I don't even
Right.
I don't know if I've seen a movie with him until this. So like I hear that and I'm watching the movie and I'm like, I mean he's not doing anything exceptional as far as acting goes. Like I'm not I don't get where the hype is coming from for this.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely late career Marlon Brando. This was the period in his career where he actually had like an earpiece in his ear where people would tell him his lines, yeah, because he didn't even want to bother with memorizing lines or anything. So yeah,
I mean, that's a hero if I've ever heard of one. I
right.
mean,
Well, yeah. I think he had a justification. He was like, well, yeah, I want to be spontaneous. So, you just tell me the line and then I say it. Yeah. Well,
that sounds weak. No. The fact that he got away with doing that is that's a feat in its own. Did he do that in this?
yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He
Yeah.
didn't even
Yeah.
say much. So
Yeah. In fact, in this movie, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I watched this Siskel and Ebert review of this, and they actually mentioned you can actually see the earpiece if you look close enough. And yeah. So,
which is also like that's not even hard to justify in the story. You can just I have a
right.
hearing aid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 No, it totally fits. Yeah. 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 The movie sort of modernizes the setting and everything. And the main guy in it is like a UN worker whose plane crashes. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty similar. And the movie also definitely emphasizes, yeah, what you were talking about with the like parental relationship. Like, yeah, Dr. Moreau actually has like children in the movie. Yeah, there's like a sort of hierarchy of beast people, and like the beast people that are the closest to being human are the ones that he has adopted as his actual children and stuff. And that includes the one guy who plays Boba Fett. He's in it too. So
yeah, he there's a love interest, I guess, is the
yeah, yeah, and then yeah, the actress Farouza Balk, yeah, she plays like the most human of the animal people. Yeah, yeah. I mean, she basically looks human, but then yeah, periodically you can see her like fangs and stuff, and that shows. Well, yeah, no, uh, she was actually originally a cat, and she still has some sort of cat abilities that she draws upon sometimes. But
which I do want to say two things. One, just for the record, I didn't mean what I said about church and state. Oh, I think they should stay separate. And so just for the record, because I know people are like, I couldn't tell if you were joking or not. And I'm like, that was a joke.
yeah, good,
And
good. Clarify
okay,
that.
and
Yeah.
also because I have another theory that everyone does exist on the spectrum of being a furry. And I
Right.
think that because when you see like people are like, oh, I just did cat whisker makeup, and it's like, oh, that's cute, and it's like, why do you think that's cute? Because all it
Hmm.
is what an animal is. So it's like that you're like, that's on the low end, and then there's the suits, but we're all on that spectrum.
Right.
And that movie showed where she was given like the bare. Now the guys were like higher on the end because you're not supposed to
Hmm.
find them hot, but you're supposed to find her hot. So they're like, okay,
Right.
teeth, and she kind of belly dances like a cat. I wasn't sure what the belly dance
Right.
scene was about, but she does it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's when she's first introduced. Yeah, she's dancing. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, she doesn't visually look like an animal much, but she's still sort of, yeah, yeah. In her kind of behavior and stuff, she still has some kind of remnants of her cat-like origins. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I think in terms of movies that encourage furry the furry subculture. This one is actually probably on the lower end of that. I mean, there's a lot of other movies that are way more uh, encouraging of that than
Yeah,
this. Surprisingly, yeah,
this is where this is the 1800s. So this was like the first in cinema for
right,
the exposure to it. So
right,
this is where it all began. This is the origin, the island
yeah.
of Dr. Moreau.
Hmm.
Comment below where you are on the furry scale out of 10. I would
Hmm.
argue I'm a 3. Duncan.
4 or 5, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'll
a little
honestly,
higher,
I was
yeah,
gonna say higher, but I was being
yeah,
safe.
yeah. Still broadly in the realm of healthy, but you know,
Yeah, right before it starts getting weird, I'm right there. Yeah.
that's right.
That's why I say it's a scale, because I'm on it.
That's right. That's right.
And you really think like where there is to go after like 6,
Hmm.
there isn't. I mean, most people I would argue are around 5,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's not really that many stages of it. So like the bare minimum is like little, you like makeup that makes you
Hmm.
look like an animal.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So comment below where you are on the number, and
Hmm. Yeah.
whoever
No judgment
whoever
here. Yeah.
yeah, whoever scores highest will win a prize.
That's right.
Um,
Price to be disclosed later. Yeah.
don't you worry. Um, yeah, are there any other stories that are like that like remind you of like something like this?
Um. Yeah. I mean, other than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Um, yeah. Yeah. I can't think of anything offhand, but yeah, I mean, there have to be a lot of stories that follow this basic formula of, yeah, some sort of mad scientist and some guy stumbles across his experiments and yeah, and chaos ensues. Yeah.
Now this is also that story, The War of the Worlds.
Hmm.
Does that have a moral at the end? Because they all, spoilers for that story, but the
Hmm.
aliens die because of bacteria, right?
I'm not familiar with War of the Worlds other than
Okay,
just
well,
yeah. I know that Orson Welles did a radio show of it that freaked people out and made people think that the Earth was actually being invaded. But yeah, I don't actually know the story otherwise. Yeah.
yeah. Well, because that's where I'm like, trying to like in this one, it's like, okay, any science fiction that involves messing with nature, you're like, there's
Mhm.
some message there. But in War of the
Right.
Worlds, I don't think there was like a real message there. It was sort of just
Hmm.
like a wouldn't that be crazy kind of story.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. I did think of one other story like this. Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. Uh, yeah, that's a.
I
Mhm.
explain what that is.
You know that one? Yeah. Yeah. So that's and that was actually made into a movie called the Secret of Nim. It was an animated movie, but yeah, it's basically about these rats that were experimented on at NIM, which is actually the National Institute of Mental Health. It's an actual real place, and yeah, these rats were experimented upon, and they basically became more intelligent than average rats, and basically Mrs. Frisbee is another rat who her children are sick and she has to like seek out these hyper intelligent rats to like help her uh, to like get medicine for her child, and then they escape from this facility and stuff. So yeah, that's a cool story. Um, yeah, that doesn't have like a scientist in the as a character, but the sort of irresponsible scientist stuff is kind of in the background of that story. So yeah.
This is probably the only story I know of where the scientist has no end goal. And
Right.
that is like mad scientist is all over the place, but having a mad scientist just be like, I just want, I'm like, not only I just want to do it, and also they're not hostile about it.
Right.
They're just like, do you want to see what I've been up to?
Hmm.
It's pretty sweet. And he's like, I almost got it figured out. I think I'm gonna nail it. I don't know what's gonna happen once I do figure it out. I don't know. Maybe I'll take a break or something.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very just yeah. Wouldn't it be cool if, yeah, sort of thinking. Um, yeah, and so I guess that's sort of the main moral quandary here. Yeah, it's just, yeah, should a scientist purely do things because they think it would be cool? Yeah.
And then, I mean, at the end, the moral that the protagonist learns
Right.
is he actually prefers animals in the form of man
Mhm.
than man in the form of man.
Right.
He wasn't really nice to them. They didn't really bond or anything, but that's what he
Yeah.
got out of it.
Yeah. No, it's not a great moral, really. And he seems to learn it too late for it to really do him any good. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know what you got till it's gone, I guess would be
Right.
the
Yeah.
thesis of this story.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's all I have to say about this. It was short. I recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely recommend it as well. Yeah.
And it's also something that has been and will keep being heavily referenced throughout history. So you might as well if you read this, I guess, because now I can appreciate some other stuff a little more.
Yeah.
Mostly
Oh,
video
yeah.
games.
Mm-hmm.
And now anything that involves beasts and men. Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't. There was a Spider Island storyline, so maybe that was a reference to this.
Right. Yeah, and more recently, the Morbius movie, where he is like literally a Batman, right?
I thought that was a joke at first, but that actually does work. That is the.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I tell you, I was well, the episode's about to end. If you're wondering, but
Yeah, we're definitely
this is I was
winding down. Yeah. Mhm.
I was burning incense as I like to do to relax sometimes after a day, and
Mhm.
I was watching Iron Man, and then I watched the not the Nightmare Before Christmas, the Scrooge movie,
Mhm. A Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol, and I think that if I really forced it, I could do some video essay about how the first Iron Man is really a retelling of A Christmas Carol, and
Oh,
where
interesting.
it starts with him in a cave. Like he wakes up at first in the cave. That's where the story starts. Then it flashes
Mhm.
back. So he has the ghost of Christmas past first.
Right.
And then it deals with his present with Yeshin talking about the effects everything has had. And the big
Mhm.
villain is essentially a reflection of where his future can go. So the
Mm.
ghost of his future.
That's not bad. That's not
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
So Annie's red.
Mm-hmm. So that's Christmassy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The third Iron Man movie actually takes place on Christmas. It's I mean it's one of those mini movies like Die Hard and stuff where you can say it's actually a Christmas movie, right?
Which we can talk about that because it
Yeah.
is the beginning of the seasons of the holidays.
It is.
Uh,
It is. Yeah.
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think while Die Hard, yeah, I mean maybe technically it's a Christmas movie, but the one I don't hear people talk about as much is Gremlins. Gremlins really is a Christmas movie.
Because the core of it is the result of gift getting,
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
and he doesn't follow the rules. He's naughty,
Hmm.
and then now there's too many presents.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Which I get. We'll end, but right before we end, what's your favorite Christmas movie? We'll talk about that.
I think my favorite is Miracle on 34th Street.
I've never heard of that.
Never heard of it? Wow. Yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was an old version of it, and then there was a remake that was made more recently. Yeah, but yeah, check it
Okay,
out.
I'll check that out. Mine is Jingle All the Way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love it. Can't get enough of it. I saw the second one starring Larry the Cable Guy, and
Uh-huh.
honestly,
Okay.
I like that one too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Not bad. Not bad.
I'm a sucker for Larry the Cable Guy. So, that's it. All right, what's our outro before we change into beasts?
Okay. Treat animals with respect because one of them one day might be your son.
I didn't expect that.